I was 15 when my parents left me home alone during a snowstorm. My dad worked emergency maintenance for the city, and my mom went with him because the roads were getting bad and they didn't want him driving alone. They told me to stay inside no matter what. Power outages were expected. They said they'd be back before morning. By midnight, the snow was coming down so hard I couldn't see past the porch light. The world outside looked erased. No cars, no wind, just thick white silence. Around 12:40, the power flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The house went black. I sat there in the dark, listening to the heater die. The silence after was overwhelming. Snowstorms swallow sound. It felt like the entire world disappeared and only the house existed. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and went back upstairs to my room. My phone still had signal, but barely. That's when I saw footprints. They were outside my bedroom window. My room was on the second floor. I stared at them, trying to understand what I was looking at. Clear shoe prints pressed into the snow on the roof outside. They came from the direction of the attic window and stopped right under mine. Whoever made them had been standing there, facing into my room, watching me. I stumbled backward and nearly dropped the flashlight. My first thought was that it had to be old prints from before the storm. But the snow was still falling, and the edges were sharp, fresh, minutes old. Something thumped above me, directly above my ceiling. I froze. Another thump. Slow, heavy, like someone crawling on their hands and knees in the attic. My parents never went into the attic. It was just insulation and old boxes. There was only one way up, the pull-down ladder in the hallway. I hadn't opened it. I would have heard it. The crawling continued. A drag. Then a shift. Like weight moving carefully. I backed into my room and locked the door, even though it wouldn't help. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone dialing 911. The dispatcher sounded far away through the weak signal. I whispered that someone was in my attic. She asked if I could leave the house. I looked out the window again. The roof prints were still there. The snow was too deep to run. I'd never make it far. While I was on the phone, the crawling stopped. Silence. Then a slow creak in the hallway. The attic ladder. I heard it unfold one notch at a time. I could picture it perfectly in my head. The wooden steps lowering. The metal hinges stretching. Someone descending into my hallway in total darkness. The dispatcher told me officers were trying to reach my street, but the snow was slowing them down. I whispered that the person was coming downstairs. She told me to hide and stay on the line. I slid under my bed, pressing the flashlight off so the room went black again. The only light came from my phone screen against my cheek. Footsteps entered the hallway. They were barefoot. I could hear skin against wood. Soft, sticky steps moving slowly past my door. They stopped. I could feel the presence outside. A weight in the air. My doorknob turned gently. Once. Twice. Then a fingernail scraped slowly down the wood. I bit my sleeve to stop from making a sound. The dispatcher kept whispering my name, telling me to stay quiet, stay hidden. The nail scraped again, longer this time. A patient dragging sound that made my teeth ache. A voice spoke from the other side of the door, not loud, not angry, just curious. "You're warm." I stopped breathing. The footsteps moved away. I heard them walk down the hallway, then down the stairs. A minute later, the back door opened. A rush of freezing wind filled the house. Then it slammed shut. The dispatcher told me officers had arrived outside but couldn't see footprints because the storm was covering everything too fast. They searched the house, top to bottom. The attic was empty. No broken window, no forced entry. The attic hatch was still open, swaying slightly from being used. The officer asked if anyone else had been in the house. I told him no. He shined his flashlight across the insulation. There were handprints, not footprints. Handprints pressed deep into the dust, spaced like someone had crawled the entire length of the attic, using only their arms, leading directly to the spot above my bedroom. They never found tracks outside. The snow erased everything within minutes. My parents came back at sunrise. The house felt different after that. Colder, hollow. I don't like snow anymore. Every winter when the power flickers, I look at the ceiling and wait for the crawling to start again. And sometimes, when the house is quiet enough, I swear I can still hear it shifting above me. I was 17 when my parents left me home alone for a long weekend while they went to a work conference. They'd done it before, and nothing ever happened. I had school Friday, so I stayed behind. They left Thursday night around 8 o'clock. By 10:30, I'd locked everything and settled in with my laptop in the living room. Our house had one of those old security systems that beeped whenever a door or window opened. It wasn't connected to police or anything. It just made noise. My dad said it was more of a deterrent than real protection. At 11:12 p.m., it beeped, just once. A clean, electronic chirp from the kitchen. I sat up straight on the couch. I stared toward the dark hallway. The beep echoed in my head. I waited for the second beep that usually followed when you closed a door. It didn't come. I stood slowly and called out, "Hello?" Silence. I walked halfway down the hall and stopped. The kitchen was pitch black except for the faint glow of the microwave clock. Nothing looked open. The back door was closed. The window above the sink looked shut. I told myself the system probably glitched. It was old. It did weird things sometimes. I went back to the couch. At 11:14, it beeped again. This time I didn't move. I stared at the hallway and felt the hair on my arms stand up. Again, no closing beep, just the open alert. My phone buzzed with a text from my dad. "Everything good?" Alarm app says a sensor opened. My stomach dropped. I texted back. Kitchen beeped twice, but nothing open. He didn't respond right away. The alarm beeped a third time, but this one didn't come from the kitchen. It came from upstairs. I felt the sound in my chest. I hadn't gone upstairs in over an hour. Every window was locked. I knew it. I checked them myself. My dad called me. I answered in a whisper. He said the app was showing sensors triggering in different rooms. Kitchen, hallway, upstairs guest room, one after another, like someone was walking through the house. I couldn't speak. While he was talking, the system beeped again. Directly above me, my bedroom. My dad went quiet on the phone. He said very calmly, "Leave the house, now. Call 911 once you're outside." I stood up too fast and nearly fell. I ran to the front door, unlocked it, and stepped onto the porch barefoot. The night air hit me like ice. I turned and looked back at the house. The upstairs hallway light turned on. I never left that light on. I dialed 911 with shaking hands and told them someone was inside. While I was on the phone, I saw a shadow move past the upstairs landing. Slow, casual, like whoever it was wasn't worried about being seen. The dispatcher told me officers were 2 minutes out. Then the front door behind me beeped. I spun around. The door was still open. I was standing in the frame, but the alarm chirped like it had just been opened from inside. I stepped back onto the lawn. The door started to close slowly on its own. Not slammed, not pushed, just gently swinging inward. I swear I saw a hand pull away from the edge before it shut. I ran across the street and stood under a streetlight, shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. From there, I could see the upstairs window. A figure stepped into view and looked down at me. I couldn't see a face, just a shape standing in my bedroom window, watching. Police cars flooded the street seconds later. The figure vanished. Officers entered the house with guns drawn. They searched every room. No one was inside. No broken locks. No forced windows. Nothing missing. But the security log showed every sensor had been triggered in a clear path. Back door, kitchen, hallway, stairs, my bedroom, front door. A complete walk through the house. The officer asked if anyone else had the alarm code. My parents said no. Only the three of us. Here's the part that still keeps me up. The system showed one final sensor trigger after police were already inside, the attic hatch. None of the officers had opened it. They searched anyway. Empty. But the dust up there was disturbed. A wide smear through the insulation, like something heavy had been dragged across it. The officer said it looked recent. My parents came home before sunrise. We replaced the entire system. Cameras, reinforced locks, everything. Nothing like that ever happened again. But sometimes I wake up to phantom beeping in my dreams, that single chirp echoing through a dark house. And in the dream, I'm always back on the porch, staring at my bedroom window, and someone is staring back. I was 16 when I stayed home alone during a heat wave that knocked power out across half the city. My parents were stuck overnight at my aunt's place because the traffic lights were down and roads were gridlocked. They told me to lock up, stay inside, and conserve my phone battery. The house turned into a dark box once the sun went down. No AC, no fans, just thick, suffocating heat. By midnight, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs and opened a window to let air in. The neighborhood was dead quiet. No generators, no cars. Even the usual highway hum was gone. It felt like the world had been unplugged. I was standing in the kitchen when I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, wet, close. I spun around so fast I hit the counter. The kitchen was empty. My flashlight beam shook across cabinets and walls. Nothing. I stood there listening, heart pounding in my ears. Then I heard it again, breathing, from the living room. I backed toward the stairs without turning my back on the doorway. The air felt thick, like someone else was in the room with me, taking up space. My flashlight flickered over the couch. A shape moved behind it. I ran upstairs and slammed my bedroom door, locking it so hard the handle rattled. My phone had one bar. I tried calling my parents. Failed. I texted them anyway. Someone's in the house. Message pending. The breathing started in the hallway. It wasn't hiding anymore. It was loud, like the person wanted me to hear it. Slow inhale, slow exhale, right outside my door. The handle turned gently. Once, twice. A voice whispered, hoarse and dry. You let the air in. I felt my stomach drop. The window. I left the window open downstairs. The breathing dragged across the door like he was leaning against it. I could hear skin sliding on wood. I climbed onto my desk and pushed the window open. The drop to the roof below was steep, but I didn't care. I swung my legs out. Behind me, the door slammed. The lock splintered. I didn't look back. I jumped. The impact knocked the air out of me, but I rolled and slid off the roof into the yard. My ankle screamed, but I ran anyway, limping across the street and pounding on my neighbor's door until lights came on. We called 911 from inside their house. Police searched mine for an hour. They found the kitchen window open, mud on the floor, handprints on the stair railing, and a dark smear on my bedroom door where someone had leaned their face against it. But they didn't find him. No back door open. No footprints leaving. Nothing broken except my lock. The officer kept saying the same thing. He had to leave somehow. Except no one saw him leave. I slept at my neighbor's house until my parents got back. We boarded the window and installed alarms the next day. Nothing like that ever happened again. But I never open windows at night now. Not even in summer. Because sometimes when the house gets quiet and the air feels too still, I swear I can hear breathing that isn't mine.